This is the first installment for the short lecture series on liver flukes, still under the topic of trematodes. We're almost done in finishing the flukes, so let's get started. Fascioliasis. These are caused by large digenetic parasites found in the liver and biliary passages of humans and herbivorous animals. Now I'd like to discuss Fasciola hepatica, your temperate liver fluke, and your Fasciola gigantica, your tropical liver fluke. These are the causative agents of fascioliasis. Fasciola hepatica has a worldwide distribution, while Fasciola gigantica occurs predominantly in the tropics. Both parasites are hermaphroditic. They also have similar life cycles and clinical manifestations in humans, so we discuss them together here. Fasciolas cause liver rot among sheep and cattle, which are the definitive hosts. Humans are just incidental hosts. So the life cycle begins when sheep, cattle, or sometimes humans acquire infection by eating vegetation containing metacercariae. After ingestion, the metacercariae exist in the duodenum and juvenile flukes migrate through the intestinal wall, peritoneal cavity, liver parenchyma, and into the biliary ducts where they develop into adults. This migration takes 3 to 4 months in humans. Let's see how these worms behave. The adult worms release unembryonated eggs into the biliary ducts, which are then passed in the stool of herbivores or your humans, and then these eggs become embryonated in the water and release miracidia, which then invade a small snail, which is your first intermediate host, where the parasites again undergo several developmental stages. So you remember the snail stages? SRC, from sporocysts to radiae to cercariae. The cercariae are released and insist as metacercariae on aquatic vegetation. Let's turn over to the first intermediate host that belong to the family Limnacidae. So these are snail hosts. For Fasciola hepatica, they are usually found living in the mud and are amphibious. On the other hand, Fasciola gigantica snail hosts are aquatic snails living in slow-moving bodies of water. And in the Philippines, the snail hosts of Fasciola hepatica are Limnaea philippinensis and Limnaea auricularia rubiginosa. Who among you love to eat water spinach or even blanched kangkong? They also serve as the second intermediate host of Fasciolas. In the Philippines, Ipomea aquatica, similar with your Fasciolopsis, and the watercress Nasturtium officinale are identified species to carry Fasciolas. This is the representative adult fluke. Fasciola hepatica has a large, broad, flat body. A distinguishing feature is the cephalic cone. Notice the marked widening at the base of the cone or shoulder. This differentiates Fasciola from other flukes. The shoulder is better observed in the next slide, and I'll show you. The suckers are comparatively small, and also at the other end, you can see two testes that are highly branched. So here is the shoulder that is evident. Compared to Fasciola hepatica, Fasciola gigantica is longer with less developed shoulders and shorter cephalic cone. Also, Fasciola gigantica has more branched ceca towards the midline. See the confluence of red staining inside the body of the gigantica. The ovary are also more numerous and longer, observed in the black and white photo with a darker staining also. So this is the actual size of your adult fasciola flukes. It can be seen, appreciated by the naked eye. Like other flukes, fasciola egg is large, ovoidal, and operculated, that is yellowish to brownish in color. A Fasciola gigantica egg is slightly larger, of course, than the Fasciola hepatica egg. Don't worry, we will not ask you to speciate the eggs of the fasciolas because their eggs are so difficult to distinguish from each other and from Fasciolopsis busci egg. Now let's begin to talk about now the clinical manifestations of fasciolopsis. The two clinical stages of fascioliasis are acute or liver phase, brought about by larval migration from intestines to the liver and worm maturation, and a second stage that is chronic or biliary phase, which results from persistence of adult flukes in the biliary ducts. Now you know the worms um, migrate. They tend to migrate on some occasions, causing ectopic fascioliasis. So to turn over to the acute phase, an infected patient will present acutely with symptoms beginning about 6 to 12 weeks after metacercaria ingestion. During the migration of the juvenile parasite from the intestines to the liver, when it burrows to the liver parenchyma, traumatic and necrotic lesions are produced. The early phases of migration through the liver is often associated with fever, right upper quadrant pain, and hepatomegaly. Jaundice is also occasionally observed. There are other nonspecific gastrointestinal symptoms, including anorexia, nausea, vomiting, and weight loss. But you can also see myalgia, cough, and urticaria, maybe when the worms tend to migrate. Of course, you can also observe marked peripheral eosinophilia. The acute phase can be complicated by hemophilia or subscapular hematomas of the liver. Fortunately, though, in most cases, acute symptoms generally resolve after about 6 weeks, although in very heavy infections, extensive liver parenchymal damage and necrosis can result. In contrast to the chronic phase, usually it begins about 6 months after infection, and this may last for 10 years or more. This phase is usually asymptomatic, although, again, GI symptoms like epigastric pain, right upper quadrant pain, nausea, diarrhea, vomiting, hepatomegaly, and jaundice can occur. In addition, in the chronic phase, the adult worm causes obstruction and stimulates inflammation in the biliary area and fibrosis. Because of this, common bile duct obstruction can develop, and chronic infection can lead to biliary colic, cholangitis, cholelithiasis, and obstructive jaundice. In addition, parasite eggs or adult worms can even cause or serve as a nidus for stone formation, and this may lead to intrahepatic or extrahepatic biliary lithiasis. As with the other flukes, fasciolas love to travel. During migration of worms from intestines to the liver, the parasite may wander and take a tour of the human body either hematogenously or through soft tissues. The most common site is the abdominal wall, subcutaneous tissue, but they can also reach these other sites. Apparently, pharyngeal fasciolasis is a form of infection that occurs in the Middle East. It is acquired by consumption of raw liver of an infected animal. The liver flu can attach to the upper respiratory or digestive tract, and this can cause an allergic pharyngitis severe enough to cause edema and congestion. And suffocation may result. They cannot breathe. This condition is also known as Halzone syndrome. So listen, the diagnosis of fasciolasis should be considered in a patient presenting with abdominal pain, hepatomegaly, with peripheral eosinophilia, and then after a careful history of eating watercress or ingestion or consumption of raw vegetables or drinking potentially contaminated water. And we can definitely confirm our diagnosis by identifying eggs in the stool, duodenal aspirates, or bile specimens. However, the stool shedding is limited for fasciolas, so alternative approaches to diagnosis include immunodiagnosis with Western blot and ELISA. Also, identification of adult worms in endoscopic or surgical specimens or serology could be helpful. CT scan and ultrasound imaging can also be an adjunctive diagnostic tool. For the treatment of fascioliasis, the drug of choice is triclabendazole, okay? Not praziquantel. In addition, biliary compression, decompression may be warranted in some circumstances. Biliary decompression indications may include biliary duct stones or cholangitis. Now, as far as fascioliasis is concerned, it has a worldwide distribution and is particularly important in livestock raising countries. Remember, in the Philippines, the dominant species affecting our cattle and water is Fasciola gigantica. In South Cotabato study, prevalence reached about 89.5%. Occurrence is sporadic in humans, but it can happen. There had been outbreaks. To repeat, transmission in humans is highly linked to eating raw, water-grown vegetables. Anyhow, washing vegetables with water, vinegar, or lemon juice is not sufficient to remove encysted metacercaria. So it's best to cook your vegetables. Aside from that, to prevent, boil your drinking water. And to control naman or regarding control of intermediate host, elimination of snail host have been attempted using molusicide application, but that's not practical. Moreover, vaccine studies in animal models have shown reduction in worm burdens and egg production of approximately 7%. But so far, no vaccines are available for human use. So that's it. We will take a short break before we proceed with the second installment for the liver flukes. See you!